The trade station, orbiting Kepler 442b, was burning. Arya stumbled through the smoke-filled corridor, her crystalline skin cracked and bleeding luminescent blue. The explosion had torn through the Vendorian quarter without warning, and now the screams of her people echoed through the collapsing structure. She was considered defective-born without the telepathic abilities that made her species valuable to the galactic community. No one would come for her. "Help!" she cried, her voice lost in the roar of flames. Metal groaned overhead. Arya looked up just as a support beam broke free, plummeting toward her. She raised her arms uselessly, knowing her fragile form couldn't withstand the impact. The beam never struck. A figure in a gray maintenance suit tackled her, rolling them both clear as the metal crashed where she'd stood moments before. Arya gasped, staring up at her rescuer. He was human, one of the newcomers from that backwater planet, Earth. His species had only joined the galactic community 3 cycles ago, and most empires still dismissed them as primitive. "Can you walk?" Jackson asked, his brown eyes scanning her injuries. I think so," Arya stammered. "But you should leave me. I'm defective, worthless." Jackson's jaw tightened. "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." He pulled her arm over his shoulder. "Nobody's worthless. Come on." They moved through the inferno together. Jackson's species lacked the advanced technology of the greater empires. No energy shields, no nanite healing, no quantum processors in their brains. But he had something else. He calculated trajectories by sight, anticipated structural failures through sound, and navigated the chaos with a determination that seemed almost supernatural. That Arya pointed to an emergency airlock ahead. A section of ceiling collapsed between them and escape. Fire roared higher, cutting off their path. Arya felt Jackson's grip tighten on her waist. "Hold your breath," he commanded. Before she could ask why, Jackson ran straight toward the flames. Arya buried her face against his shoulder as heat washed over them. She felt him grunt in pain, but he didn't stop. 3 seconds that felt like eternity, and then they were through. Tumbling into the airlock, Jackson slammed the emergency release. The outer door blew open, and they were sucked into a rescue pod just beyond. As the pod systems activated and pulled them away from the dying station, Arya stared at the human beside her. His hands were badly burned, his suit scorched and melting in places. "You're hurt," she whispered. "Why did you do that?" "For someone like me." Jackson looked at her, confused. "Because you needed help. What other reason would there be?" The rescue pod's distress beacon was picked up within minutes. But it wasn't just local authorities who received the signal. The Vendorian Empire, the Thalax Consortium, the Creely Dominion, and 17 other major powers monitored all traffic in this sector. They all heard the same recording that the pod's black box transmitted. They heard Arya's screams, Jackson's refusal to leave her, the sounds of him carrying her through fire, and they heard the part that made every empire's leadership go cold. The human's biometrics, his heart rate, stress hormones, pain receptors, all indicating he was in agony. Yet he hadn't hesitated. On Earth, the incident might have been just another rescue story. But in galactic civilization, where species were valued by their utility and defects were discarded, what Jackson had done was incomprehensible. He had risked death for someone deemed worthless by her own people. The Vendorian Empress was the first to understand the implications. She had studied Earth's history, their wars, their literature, their illogical attachment to individual lives. If this was how a random human maintenance worker behaved, what would happen if Earth's military ever decided to care about someone? The message she sent to Earth's embassy was simple. "We regret our treatment of Arya. The Vendorian Empire formally apologizes and requests dialogue." Within an hour, every major power had sent similar communications. The Thalax Consortium offered resource treaties. The Creely Dominion proposed a defensive alliance. Species that had barely acknowledged humanity's existence were suddenly desperate for Earth's attention because they realized something terrifying. A species that would brave fire for a single defective alien couldn't be measured by conventional power metrics. Humans didn't calculate cost-benefit ratios for individual lives. They didn't have neural limiters preventing self-sacrifice. They were, by galactic standards, insane, and that made them the most dangerous species in known space. 2 weeks later, Arya stood in Earth's embassy on the Galactic Council station, her hands healed. Her status changed from defective to honored guest of humanity. Beside her, Jackson wore dress clothes that looked uncomfortable on his muscular frame, his bandaged hands clasped behind his back. "I don't understand," Arya said, watching through the viewport as warships from every major empire held position around Earth's modest fleetnet, threatening but All of this because you saved me. Jackson shrugged. I guess they realized something.
What?
That humanity doesn't sort people into worth saving and not worth saving. We don't leave people behind because they're different or damaged or scared. He met her crystalline eyes. We decided a long time ago that every person matters. It cost us a lot to learn that lesson, but it's not a lesson we're willing to unlearn. Through the viewport, another Empire's flagship dipped its bow, a sign of respect in galactic protocol. Then another, and another. Arya watched empires that had ruled for millennia show deference to a species barely 3 cycles into space travel, all because one human refused to let her burn. Your people are terrifying, she whispered. Jaxon smiled. We prefer the term decent, and in the grand calculus of galactic civilization, where power was measured in fleets and resources and technology, humanity had just introduced a new variable that couldn't be quantified: the absolute refusal to abandon anyone, no matter the cost. Every empire understood the message. Some species would trade individual lives for strategic advantage. Humans would trade strategic advantage for individual lives, and that made all the difference.